Hi there, Malcolm here with my 308th Booktube video, and today I'll be bringing you a review for The Best of 2000 AD, Volume 2. I've recently read Judge Dredd, The Complete Case Files 01. I did a collaborative video over on Captain Samuel Sigil's channel. I'll leave a link to that below, as well as my own thoughts on it on this channel, link to that. And I learned that the Judge Dredd stories came in a collected magazine called 2000 AD, which featured various different stories, Judge Dredd just being one of them. So I spotted this in the library and I thought, well, I'll educate myself about what else is in 2000 AD. And on the back it claims that in each edition you'll find an explosive new Judge Dredd adventure, fresh essays by prominent popular culture writers, a graphic novel length feature presentation, and a vintage Dredd case. So first up is Judge Dredd Magic Bullets, which straight away has a very different look and feel to the Judge Dredd that I read previously because it's in colour. It's also slightly longer than the 4 or 5 pages that each story featured in the Complete Case Files. It's not massively long, it's about the average size of a typical comic. And in this one, some guys have devised a magic bullet. We call them drones nowadays, but effectively they're wiping out people left, right and centre with these things, and Dredd has to track them down and stop them from doing this. Yeah, a good little story. Didn't really add much to the Dredd scene, but was a fun story in that universe. Following that is Brink, or rather Brink, Book 1 Part 2. And it very much felt like the second half of a story. The first half very much having left off on some sort of cliffhanger with this giant eyeball, and basically I had no idea what the hell was going on going into it. There's a significant character death fairly early on in the second half, which I think would have had more of an impact had I known who this character was, having established who they were in the first half of the story. But I would say there is enough in the second half to pick up what was going on to get to this point and then moving on forward from there. I can't really tell you much without giving away any spoilers whatsoever, but felt very sort of cyberpunk, neon punk sort of thing. Basically, Brink is a space station, or the space station. Earth is dead or dying, and all of humanity are living on this space station, just trying to exist. There's a thing that's going to happen. I'm not entirely sure what. Like I say, most of that is established in the first half, presumably. And we follow a female agent who's trying to investigate stuff, but does something wrong and is now on probation. Anyway, no idea what's going on. And she's being chased by some guys, and then some other characters say, oh, come with us, and apparently the characters we met in the first book again. So yeah, I was really left in the lurch for a lot of it, but there is just enough to actually know what was going on. Kind of intriguing. Following the conclusion of the part 1 was this page, which shows this is spread over 5 books, at least at the time of writing, to get the entire story. I'm not sure if I was intrigued enough to look for them. If I was to see one, I might pick it up, particularly book 1, just to see what happens in the first half. But a bit of a bizarre choice to show one half of one story, and that being the second half. So I don't even know if the first half was in volume 1 of this collection. We then have an essay by Tom Shapira called The Deviant Triumphant, all about Nemesis the Warlock. I'm basically giving it a little lowdown about the pages following, which is the feature-length graphic novel that takes up the majority of this volume. Sorry, I ran out of time. I had to go and do some things. So a few hours later, hence a completely different light. Where was I? Oh yes, Nemesis the Warlock, Book 1. Now coincidentally, both myself and Sam from Captain Samuel's Sigils have both read Nemesis the Warlock more or less at the same time, having read the Judge Dredd Complete Case Files 01. And he's already done a review for it. I'll leave a link to that below so you can see what he thought of it. It's always great to have multiple points of view. But here's my take. Nemesis the Warlock is set in another post-apocalyptic style future. Everyone lives underground or on other planets. And for reasons never really fully addressed, humankind have become extremely xenophobic to the point where being an alien, or even suspected of being an alien, is a crime punishable by instant death. And the lead arsehole of the humans is this guy called Torquemada, who's more or less in charge. And the slogan, be pure, be vigilant, behave, is drilled into humanity as a warning to look out for anyone who might be alien. Or not only is it bad enough being an alien on Earth, these arseholes go off to other planets to purge them from the alien infestation of beings who just happen to live there because that's their planet, for being alien, even though technically the humans at this point are now the alien being on another planet. And it's a pretty grim scenario where we meet these tree-like creatures on one planet they see the humans turn up and they attempt to look human, but there's a dunking chair and mass execution as a result of finding out that they are actually not human after all. Pretty grim stuff. And it's no accident that the humans themselves wear these masks and paraphernalia that are rather reminiscent of extreme racist groups and organisations from nearer our time, with lots of Spanish Inquisition and Ku Klux Klan imagery in particular. And amidst all this chaos is an alien being called Nemesis, who is a sort of half man, half dragon, half horse, half I don't know what else, green creature. His species is Warlock. He's not a Warlock by profession, he's a Warlock by species. And he has a number of abilities which do slowly become apparent as the story unfolds. He's got a bit of telekinesis, maybe a bit of telepathy as well. He can breathe fire. He also wields a kick-ass sword. And he's numero uno on Torquemanda's hit list. And the tale is told over a series of adventures and stories, starting with a prologue called The Terror Tube. There's Torquemada himself, head of the Terminators. And it's a bit like the original Mad Max film, where there's a lot of action with cars and vehicles as we race about on these internal tubes going through the planet, with Nemesis being one of the vehicles. He smashes into a transport carrying prisoners, releasing the prisoners. Presumably he kills some of them doing it too, but I don't know. And we have an almost wacky racers style car chase through various tunnels and all that. I mean, it's quite serious stuff, but we do have this weird slapstick aspect as well, as one of the Terminators smashes through a restaurant window and lands on this guy's dinner. And following that, Torquemada has to take a bus effectively back to his headquarters, where they're suddenly snatched from the ground by this pterodactyl airplane type thing, which is kind of weird. And a series of events that lead to his apparent death, but you can't kill true evil, can you? We then have the origin of Excessus, which is Nemesis' sword. Torquemada sets a guy on a quest to go and get this sword, and for years he battles across planes and planets and creatures and stuff, fights wars and all the rest of it, and he loses a leg, he loses an arm, an eye. Finally, eventually, he gets there, only for a thing to happen. It's sort of almost like one of those long jokes with a punchline right at the end. We then have the main story, Nemesis the Warlock, which has these tree people being butchered by these Terminators. And Nemesis himself is shot down over a planet where he crash lands. The inhabitants are human, and they hang him, effectively. However, the hanging didn't really take, and his executioners all succumbed to a fatal mishap and sort of poetic justice to how they treated him when they caught him in the first place, until eventually the survivors let him go. And that's a really interesting story. I quite enjoyed that one. We then go back to Earth, where we follow two resistance fighters, or alien sympathisers on the run from Terminators, but unintentionally lead the Terminators straight to their headquarters, where Torquemada reveals his secret ability. I'm not going to give it away, but it's pretty cool and grim. But it's going to lead to a mass execution, which of course means that Nemesis has to do a mass rescue operation, leading to a massive release of prisoners, human and alien, and a huge uprising. Really exciting, a lot going on, and a pretty epic battle between Nemesis and Torquemada at the end. With a battle that kind of reminded me of the end of The Sixth Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the end of season 1 of Altered Carbon. I'm not going to give away any more than that, but if you're familiar with those two, you should know what I'm talking about. Pretty cool. And then there's a weird little mini-sode at the end. Torquemada, Grandmaster of Termite, which is what Earth is called at this time, where we see his family a bit, which is a bit weird. And it's called A Day in the Death of Torquemada, which is, it's a thing. That happened. Okay, so that's pretty much it. There's an awful lot going on in there, which is why I felt I needed to sort of explain it a bit more. So what I didn't like about it? Not much, actually. I think it's the same complaint I had really for the Judge Dredd, in that you don't know much about the main character. Nemesis, he's there, he's like the Robin Hood character, but you don't know much about him. You don't know his fears, his feelings, why he's doing what he's doing, what credo actually means. It's a word he says a lot. You know, you don't even see him in the first couple of episodes with the car chase and all the rest of it. You just see his car. And one could say, well, what's led to this massive level of xenophobia in humanity, but then do we really need to unpick just why humans choose to hate so quickly and easily? We're already well aware of that one. Thank you very much. So what I did like, Certainly for a story that was written back in the late 70s in the UK, the story of blatant hate and racism and guilty by association, where groups of masked men descend on communities to remove the undesirables from a community. How can something be more true today than it was back in the late 70s? And the other thing I really enjoyed was the amazing artwork. The front cover for this one, for example, depicts the final confrontation between our two main characters. They're on a bridge with these two weird figures, which are literally just statues. They're not beings, they're just statues. The architecture is so grim and alien and weird, where we get deep metropolitan type scenes like this, where you can see the little dots of the figures walking on there, along this green band here, they're all walking off into the distance there. And then, I'm not sure if you can see, so there you got little black dots down there, showing again the scale of the scene. Tokamada goes home. That's what his house looks like. There he is. He's walking into this building. There's his house, and he gets this insane statue on the top of it. I'm now trying to get planning permission for one of those put up above your house. And the design of the people themselves. No, you wouldn't want to meet that guy in a dark alley, would you? I love the commentary of these alien-hating humans who wear these grotesque masks and body armour, and yet behind these masks you can see a very real eye and nose, and there's his mouth there, but they make themselves look more grotesque than the aliens do themselves. I don't normally like early comic colour palettes because they are pretty primary colours and lots of bold orange and green and all the rest of it. But I found for this story it really worked because there's so much detail in any one panel that you need more than two colours to really give it its full blessing, to really convey the full meaning of it all. There's just so much going on. Almost every panel is just full of detail and things to look at. I mean, and this guy's book is bound in alien skin, and those are all eyeballs looking out at you. Great stuff, grim stuff. Highly recommend Nemesis the Warlock. I'll certainly look out to see if there's any more of that series. Anyway, moving on. Next up was ABC Warriors Red Planet Blues. This one's written by Alan Moore, of all people, who personally I always find a bit wanting when it comes to as a writer. Great concept ideas, but his executions I always find a bit lacking. However, in this case, in this very short story, literally 7 pages long, it's set on Mars. They're trying to colonise it. The air's not quite breathable yet. They have to wear masks. And they find this weird structure. There's one human on Mars, and they've got a bunch of robots there to support. And there's a mystery behind this structure. People have gone missing, which is very quickly resolved, obviously due to the shortness of the story. But I found it really interesting, really compelling. And I loved the art style. I thought this was really, really detailed. A very enjoyable short story. It didn't need to be longer. I wouldn't have minded more stories from that world. So I certainly need to look out for more ABC Warriors, if there is any. But yeah, really enjoy that. And we finished off with another Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd in the Vampire Effect. And basically this blob is a vampiric, life-draining entity. It starts off like the size of your fist, and as it eats more and more things, it gets bigger and bigger. They've got to try and stop it. So a ship crashes with this thing on, and then the judges have to try and stop it. Again, they've got nice colour artwork, a little grainier than the other stories. I didn't mind that at all. It's a sort of a monster story that I've seen before. Unstoppable thing comes along, starts consuming everything in its path. They eventually find out there's a weakness for it. They exploit the weakness. They save the day. And then finally, at the end is D.R. Enquinch's Agony page, which is this 1-page thing about the wonders of atomic nuclear fire, as you do. A bit weird, but fun at the same time. So there we go. That is the best of 2000 AD, Volume 2. Really, really enjoyed most of this. I would have enjoyed Brink more had I read part 1 of it beforehand. But apart from that, an excellent collection of vintage stories. Well worth a look. Booktastic. So there you go. Have you read the best of 2000 AD? Or what's your favourite franchise from 2000 AD? Comment down below, please. As usual, if you have nothing nice to say, then please keep it to yourself. Thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and other YouTubey things if you want. And until next time, see you later.